Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bruce, roll call, please.
Councilmember Barrett.
Here.
Councilmember Seeley.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Bisbal.
Here.
Councilmember Ellis.
Here.
Mayor Kajewski.
Here.
Councilmember Cusick.
Here.
Councilmember Gazette.
Here.
On page 3 to 6 are the minutes from our September 18th regular council meeting. Please review them, and if acceptable, I need a motion to accept.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. On pages 7 through 16 are commission and committee minutes. Again, and we need a motion to accept in the public domain.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We received our actuarial and GASB report recently. It should be in your, if it's not at the desk, it was previously delivered. Again, we're accepting in the public domain. We'll have further comments on it at the next meeting with the auditors and with the pension commission. Again, I need a motion to accept.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Public comment? Do you have any public comment? Okay, no public comment. The next item 8, is the appointments to the library board. On pages 17 through 27, we have the resumes and applications for the 2 residents. This one is a very difficult one. We had 3 residents originally submit an application to serve as a library trustee, and this is an important role in our community. The current board members have demonstrated their belief in a strong, fiscally sound, and progressive library. And so, in our package on pages 17 to 27, there's 2 candidates that are left. Prudence Cole. She's got a bachelor's and master's degree in education and related fields, and was a teacher in the early part of her career. And then Paul Rentenbach, who has served in Grosse Pointe Park as the library trustee. Very strong background. I couldn't come up with a better resume. Paul's here, I think. I couldn't lie and create a better resume than either of them. But again, this was a tough one. 2 residents attended and gave very good, solid presentations. So, but at this point, I'd like to appoint Prudence Cole as our representative to the, as our Grosse Pointe Shores resident to the library as a trustee. And I'd like a motion to accept that by the council.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Again, I thank you, Paul, or Paul's here. I'm very impressed with the credentials that he has and his service. I'd also like to thank Kim Valise for serving the last couple years as a trustee. It requires 6, 7, 8 hours a month, every month, and it's a very important role. The libraries are the foundation, really, of the schools, and the schools are the foundation of all the Grosse Pointes. The next item is Planning Commission. We have an appointment here. I've discussed it with Mary. We have one applicant, Greg DeMars. Greg's background is solid. Bachelor's degree from Wayne State with high distinction in business administration, master's degree in public administration from Wayne State, and a law degree from Wayne State, magna cum laude, which means the top 1% of his class at Wayne State. A very impressive background, worked 35 years at Honigman, did commercial real estate. His whole background is really real estate. We're lucky that he's available to serve. So I'd like my appointment to be ratified by council. I need a motion to accept.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Again, I thank everyone. We're so blessed to have talented residents to serve. Greg DeMars is replacing Ellen Broad. He's a very, very solid, very, very top-end lawyer. Greg's going to do a great job and fill in Ellen's shoes. And then again, Prudence is going to be filling Kim Valise's shoes. And again, very solid people here. Our next item is the presentation by Mary Ann Stempel, the chairperson of the Wayne County Community College. Can't hide from us.
I don't want to, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to tell you just a little bit about the millage. It is not an increase for Wayne County Community College. We are asking for 2 temporary millages to become permanent. The situation is there is 1 permanent millage, 1 mill. There's a temporary 1 mill, and there's a temporary 1.25 mill. We are asking for the latter 2 to become permanent. Now, why are we doing it at this time, you ask? Well, it's because over the last 20 years, and I've been on the board 26 years now, we have demonstrated to you our fiscal responsibility. We have had a myriad of audits, both state and federal, and have always come up clean. And also, every project we've ever taken on, capital project, has come in on budget and on time. So we would like a permanent millage. Second of all, you might ask, well, there's not a lot of Shores residents that go to the community college, and that's true. But Shores residents hire community college graduates in healthcare, in the trades, and half of our graduates go on to 4-year colleges. That is why we are asking for a millage. Like I said, it's not an increase. And I liked what you said before, Mayor, about that libraries are the foundation of our schools, and our schools are the foundation of our society. And the community college, it's our 50th year, and we've been we've graduated thousands of residents in a variety of programs. We now have approximately 120 programs. So if you'd consider our request, we'd really appreciate it. Are there any questions? Does anyone have any questions at all for me?
Well, Mary Ellen, at one of the town halls, someone asked, how many students from Grosse Pointe, Harper Woods are students at Wayne Community College? Not just Grosse Pointe Shores, of all
Of the
Points.
Grosse Points, I would say less than 100.
Okay. I didn't know the answer, that's why I
Right.
asked you.
Right.
Okay. And the emphasis now seems to be on the trades, doesn't it?
Yes, we are.
Like refrigeration, I thought I saw some newer trades that weren't before represented by the school.
Yes, HVAC is one of our shining stars. With a 2-year degree, an individual can go out and get a job immediately for between $60,000 and $70,000. And I'd say that's a really good trade-off for a 2-year program. Another one of our hot programs is cybersecurity. And that is, a lot of veterans come back. They're very interested in it. They may have done a few things while in the military, and now they can get a degree in that.
Do you offer any programs in robotics or artificial intelligence?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Where are your campuses? I'm just so stupid about it.
No, stupid. There's one in Belleville, downriver, on the west side of Detroit, downtown, on the east side, and then there's 2, the University Center on 8 Mile.
Okay. The east side is where?
It's across from
Eastland?
Eastland.
Oh, yeah, gotcha. Jeez, sure.
Okay. Any other questions for Mary Ellen? Well, Mary Ellen, thanks for coming. We appreciate the
I've
presentation.
got some information that I'll give the city manager to pass out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. We now have our presentation, Jessica, for the library Renewal Committee presentation?
Good evening. Oops. I set up our little presentation earlier. Hopefully it's still up.
Oh, we got a video presentation. huh?
There we go. All right. Oops. Let me go back. Okay. So I'm here tonight to tell you about the ballot proposal in November for the library. First of all, I want to remind everybody of our mission, which is to expand learning, inspire creativity, and connect our community. Our core values are service, access to resources, intellectual curiosity, innovation, respect, and inclusion. We strengthen the community in many ways. In the last year, we circulated nearly 500,000 items, and that's everything from your traditional print books to tools to STEAM kits, which are robotics and science and engineering and math tools for children, to telescopes, all sorts of things, ebooks and movies, digital movies that you can download. We had over 29,000 people attend educational programs at the library last year. We had nearly 500,000 visitors, and we answered 76,662 reference questions from our professional trained librarians. So, in November, we are asking the Grosse Pointe voters to renew our millage, which is .6847 mils, and that would renew it starting in 2020 for another 8 years. It is not an increase. And the millage will be used for library operations, new materials, technology, building maintenance and improvements, and to pay down the bonds for the Ewald and Woods branches. We have broken down the costs based on your home market value, and again, this would be a continuing cost, not a new tax. And the millage is about 30% of our funding, so our services would be severely impacted if our millage is not renewed. And just a fun fact, families who check out just one item per week save an average of $700 a year by using the library. And our users tend to check out a lot more than just one item a week. The library is an essential part of what makes the Grosse Pointes and Harper Woods a walkable, friendly, attractive community. And does anybody have any questions about what's on the ballot?
Any questions? Jessica, you still have the Friends of the Library?
Yes, we
And
do.
they still have, I know the book sales in the basement, they still do that?
Oh, yes, we do. We actually have, the Friends have a bookstore, the Friends Down Under store at the
Okay.
Woods branch, which is in the lower level. And then they do usually 3 book sales a year, sometimes more. They actually just had a pop-up book sale because they had so many donations last weekend. So they're a very active group. And we also have a foundation. And they just had a wonderful fundraiser a couple of weeks ago. And the Friends and Foundation have been really working together a lot more lately, collaborating.
Okay. Now, at one time, there was talk about renovating or replacing Central Library. Is there any plans on that, or?
Well, we did our strategic plan just over a year ago, and that did include doing a space needs assessment and a capital needs assessment for all 3 facilities. And we're in the midst of that process right now. And the architects will be making some recommendations for improvements to all 3 buildings, but none of those include replacing Central at all. And as a matter of fact, the architects are really just enamored with the architecture of the building. They just brought in a bunch of people from out of town just to see it because of the significance that it's designed by Marcel Breuer. And so there's no intention of tearing down Central or building a new Central
Okay.
branch.
Did you just go through a big renovation there? Replacing carpeting, shelving?
Carpeting and, yeah, we did replace the carpeting and the shelving in 2016, and the HVAC was just replaced. So none of that would be torn out, but we may look at making improvements, like the restroom facilities need some improvements, the parking lot, things like that. So we want to continue to maintain and enhance the building, but we're,
This is ongoing maintenance.
yes.
Jessica, if there's one thing that you can work on next year, what would it be that you would to improve the library?
Oh, gosh. Well, I would say just continuing to raise awareness of everything that we have to offer. We have a really strong core group of users, but I think that there's still a lot of people that don't know everything that we can offer, and I want to change that. I want everybody in Grosse Pointe to know the library and use it and love it.
Okay, good.
Is usage going up or down?
Usage overall is going up. It's interesting, we're seeing more people just coming to the library and using it as a community space and as a quiet space. And we're seeing digital material checkout and downloading and streaming going up. We're seeing the usage of DVDs and CDs going down a bit. And ebooks and digital streaming is going way up.
This is more of a curiosity question, I guess. I use the library quite often, and I was reading this one author, I won't mention his name or anything, and I thought, I need to go back and see what books I read of his, because I think I might have skipped one or something. You can't do that. Why is that?
Yeah, the library databases are not, and this is across the board for libraries in the U.S., excuse me, they're actually intentionally, they don't retain your records. So when you return something, unless it was overdue and there's a fine associated or there was damage, we don't keep a record of what you checked out, and that's actually to protect your privacy, so that nobody could come in later and see what
what
you
he
were
did
reading.
20 years
Yeah,
ago.
exactly.
Yeah, but we need
I think I read about that debate,
Yeah.
so,
No
Wouldn't you like to
profilers.
know?
Supreme Court, I think.
Okay,
Okay.
that answered my question.
Any, Mark?
Just wanted to comment, Jessica's been a really great addition to the Grosse Pointe community. She came from Ferndale, Hazel Park before that, moved into the city, and asked me, I am in the board as a volunteer, the board chair of the Library Network, which is the co-op at the Grosse Pointe Public Library System. And almost all the libraries in Wayne County except for Harper Woods, and all of them in Oakland County belong, along with Livingston, St. Clair County. It's one of the largest co-ops in the state, and that provides the delivery service, the book ordering, and a variety of things. But Jessica's really done a great job. Conned me into helping select some of their building managers, and I was so impressed with the quality of people that work at the library. And if you haven't seen, we should schedule a tour of the Central Library just to see their art collection, which includes a Calder mobile hanging from the ceiling, as well as being in a Marcel Breuer building. And of course, in the Woods branch, it's a signature building, and the Ewald branch was also a beautiful, great job to complete that part of that campus in Brooklyn Park, too. It's been fun to work with Jessica and her staff people. Are great. They help us at SOC. They do a whole lot of things to help the community, and it really is a gathering space for the community. So,
Well, keep up the good work, Jessica.
Thank you
Okay,
very
thanks for
much.
coming.
Thank you.
Okay. We have our final presentation. Dick from Honeywell. This is our closure meeting, isn't it, Dick?
That was last year, actually.
You told us how much money we saved.
I have my
Jessica.
able-bodied assistant, the chief, passing out the presentation.
Thank you.
Let me just first say, it's great to be back in front of your community again. You know, I've been with Honeywell now for going on 39 years, and when you get to go back and give a report card like this that shows good results, it's always a good time. And I want to start off first and thank the city council, as well as Mark Wollenweber, Brett Smith, the chief, and especially your councilman, your colleague, Councilman Barrett. When you together a program like this, you need to have a team effort, and that was one thing that struck me right away when I started working after doing these projects all over the state of Michigan. You don't always get this team effort where a councilman is at like all your meetings for measurement and verification, and the interest that shows the interest that's there and the connection that's there, which really I think helped help this project get the results. Tonight, what I want to do is just basically tell you 3 key points. First off, we did what we said we were going to do. Secondly, our solutions are performing, doing what they said they were going to. And then lastly, our support that we had over the last 3 years helped protect your investments that you made. I'm going to revisit the performance contracting because I see there's a couple new council members that weren't here back in 2014 when we were originally working on this. Show you the scope of work real briefly. A financial analysis that we presented that was projected in terms of what the cost would be and what the savings would be, and then open it up for any questions after that. If you turn to page 3, you'll see a slide there that shows dollar bills and a budget. And basically what that illustrates to you is that what a performance contract is we're trying to redirect excess utility and repair costs into savings that can be leveraged into making facility improvements and enhancements to your infrastructure. And that's what we ended up doing. After my engineers studied it, you look on page 4, 5, and 6, there's 3 pages of pictures there. That's all of your old equipment that was replaced. You have boilers, air handlers, you have heating units, air conditioning units, you have domestic hot water heaters here in this facility that really were way beyond their useful life and needed to be addressed. Over in Brett's building at the DPWC, one of them over in the upper right-hand corner was all rusted out. That one actually caught on fire right before we did the project. So it was luckily that we were replacing this with a new system, more energy efficient. And then at the pool house, what we did is the boiler replacement and some of the heating units over there, and we put a variable frequency drive on the pumps so that by code you're allowed to slow the pump down at night, and you're basically, when no one's in there, instead of having like 6 changes, you can by code go back to like 2. So that saves a lot of electricity energy there. So we did that. Those are all the type projects that we did. And you'll see a busy chart there that's called the replacement summary. This was the life cycle analysis on this one that we did. The one thing, if you look on the bottom, over in the far right-hand column, the remaining life, you see that the remaining life of all of your rated systems was 0. So you were going to need to replace this equipment anyway, and so we helped you get it replaced as part of the project. The next page is the scope of works matrix. That basically tells you all the different projects that we did by facility. Some of the major ones, besides the variable frequency drive, was the HVAC here, and basically they had pneumatic control systems which operated off of air compressors, and there was tubing and stuff going all around the building. Anytime Brett would want to, change the temperature, he had to trace through a myriad of controls and tubing. Now it's all computerized on a digital control system. He can see what's happening with the equipment. He can change the temperatures, the set points, and it's programmed to shut off at night when no one's here to save energy. So that's a major help for Brett. Another thing we did was we put in a backup generator that backs up this facility as well as the DPW facility in case there's any disruption in service. Now you have the capability to have power should anything like that happen. And then one of the other big projects was also giving the community a lot of headaches was the street lights, from the standpoint that you had an old 4,800 volt street light system that we replaced underground with new lower voltage system, and we converted everything over to LED. And I was just talking to the chief, and because I hadn't seen him for a while, and I was asking him, you're blessed that you live in a safe community, but he said that with the lights on that it actually makes it safer even more so, because it's brighter and it's helpful for the citizens, less accidents, be able to see better and those type of things, and the energy savings was huge. So you look at page 9, and it has, this was the original cash flow projection. You went out on a 15-year basis and did what's called an Act 99 installment purchase agreement. and you financed $3,158,740. And then there's the schedule of the debt service in red, and you see that under the support services section, there was the 3 years where we were guaranteeing this project for 3 years to do our services and to actually get the energy bills to make sure that you were saving the energy that we had guaranteed. So we did that for 3 years, and that ended actually, I believe it was earlier this year, wasn't it, Mark?
Last year.
Okay, so it was last year. So I'm a little late getting here, but still glad to be here to share the good news with you. So you see that at the end of the 15-year period, you had a positive cash flow, if you look on the bottom right-hand corner there, of $134,000, which meant you financed all these improvements through savings that you would have otherwise spent and given to either the utility or to repair contractors to repair underground wiring and things like that. So it's been a good project. If you turn to page 10, it gets into the energy savings details. And basically, the top chart that's listed cost savings summary kind of summarizes for the 3 years what our utility cost savings were that we guaranteed. 39,504 is what we guaranteed, and then we actually verified 60,000 that first year, and then we actually had a $53,118 verified in the construction period, because it took us a little over a year to get everything in, but we tried to get in all the lighting because that was really where a lot of the savings was, so we got that in first. And you see that if you look at the totals, we're actually about 196% of what we should have been at in terms of energy. As far as the operating cost savings, repair and maintenance savings, that was right on with the 145, 458. And then when you add them together and you go on the total line, you see that we were about 120% of plan year to date from where we should have been. So whenever you meet or exceed, we try to exceed, but at least meet what we say we're going to do. That's a good thing. And then if you look underneath the utility summary underneath, it has by year for both kilowatt hours for the KWH saved and the MMBTUs of gas that were saved. And you can see that in every case there, by year, we exceeded, what we had guaranteed and what we said we were going to do. And that was right off your bills. So that was a good performance. And, that's another thing too, is like part of the reason why we get this type of performance is we put in stuff that works, but we're only as good as our feet on the street with like guys like Brett. And Brett has been very conscientious working with our project manager to get the control systems, dialed in, to get adjusted properly when things happen so that this savings continues year by year. So he gets a lot of the credit of that as well. In terms of the ECMs on the next page 11, if you wanted to see a breakout by ECM, which stands for Energy Conservation Measure, lighting, boiler, motors, the variable speed drives, the building envelope, the pool cover, we did it so you can see, what the savings was there, annual savings. That was just for the last year, for year 3.
Dick, what did the lights end up? I think it was $1.90 a month for each of our street lamps.
No, it's $3.
It's like,
It
was like something very, very,
It was
very minimal
yeah.
for the number of, I think we owned like 147 or something light poles. So.
Yeah, and then there were 2 types that we did. We did the ornamentals down here on the street out here, and then we did the overhead Cobras. And then we actually mocked them up, so we gave you a couple different choices to pick from before we actually put them in. And then you guys chose which ones you wanted to put in.
And then you found we were paying energy for ones weren't even in our system, wasn't it?
Right, that occurred as well. So, yeah.
Okay.
So that kind of gives you the utility cost saving summary and the units. And then if you wanted to look at by location, that's probably, this is just for the last year, year 3. It isn't surprising to look at most of the savings was coming from the street lighting, which we knew that that was what it was gonna be anyway, but then you can see that the Village Hall was second, followed by the pool house in third. So those are your highest energy users, so that's where we expected the savings to come from anyway. But you can see that that's where they were as far as location. So the last graph on page 13 just kind of summarizes, if you look at that, there's a red bar and there's a blue bar there. And the red bar indicates what our guarantee was, per year, and the blue bar indicates what we actually delivered in terms of the total savings on the project. So you can see it's very close, within a couple $100 each year. So the project is performing and tracking. And again, you're 20% over where our guarantee was. So moving forward with a man like Brett in charge of the infrastructure, you should expect to continue to save this level of energy, as well as have new systems that are going to perform well into a 30-year life cycle type scenario. So it's been a pleasure to work with the city on this project, and we appreciate not only the support through the project, but also they're helping us right now with Grosse Pointe Woods as well. Brett gave me a reference over there, so.
Oh, good. Any questions of Dick? Dick, the only thing that happened recently was the failure of one pump at the north end. Was that slated to be replaced when you did an assessment? I don't see that here in the.
No, that wasn't one that was slated to be replaced.
Okay. But the good news is your savings, our energy savings of about 205,000. That's almost like 3/4 of 1 mil of tax each year.
Right.
That you saved in our tax base, so.
And the other thing is a lot of the nuisance, whenever that's, when you'd have, somebody would dig to replace their driveway or something, because that 4800 system would go out, the street lights, and then you'd have to do all those underground repairs, and that was a real headache, for the city to address that. Now you don't have to worry about that, so.
Well, we appreciate you coming to give us some,
I have one question for you, Dick. On the page 10, that utility savings summary, to the right there, the gas savings, that's really trended downward. Is that?
Well, part of that is that some of that savings from the first year was also due to the construction period. Like I said, it took us a little over a year. So when we listed it there, we didn't put it in there. We just put it all in with the first year. So some of that is from the construction period, but some of it could have been, something to do with like when you started your pool up and that with the weather and all that stuff.
Okay.
any other questions? Well, Dick, we appreciate you coming to give us some closure on a very successful performance contract, so thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next item on the agenda, Rhonda, is our reports by chairpersons.
Good evening, everyone. In your financial packet, you have a list of the wire transfers. There's really nothing different this month compared to last month, other than the bond payments were last month. If you have any questions on transfers at all. Then I'll move on to the check register for the checks issued since the last meeting. There were some park-related bills paid. One was installing the concrete slab for the new gatehouse. Also, Helen and the DPW staff is busy purchasing daffodils and other bulbs for the plantings. And I know Brett we've been going through the large recycling carts like crazy lately. So we had another shipment of those come in, along with the quarterly payment for our dispatch lockup services with Grosse Pointe Farms.
Do you saying people are using those carts more and more?
They seem to be purchasing a lot more of those.
Well, it's a good thing. Rhonda, label stop, I mean, it's marked snow contract, it's more than that, isn't it? $776 for label stop?
Yeah, it probably was.
I mean, it's just showing that it's
We
for
ordered by envelopes and stationery, so there could be
snow
some of that in
permits,
there
but
also.
yeah, okay. Any other questions for Rhonda?
What are we paying Stuckey Vital Architects for?
Their work on the
Master
gatehouse
plan.
and the master plan. They hosted the meeting, and I owe them some minutes, which I haven't done yet, but I will from the public meeting that they had.
Are we gonna, is this now closed out? Are we gonna owe them any more? Are we done with this or what?
Pretty much done.
Except for the change orders.
Yeah, there might be a change, well, it depends on, the construction is begun, as you saw over there, and so they're doing a minor monitoring of that, so, there might be some testing or some minor costs associated with that.
Back to Fassard Electric. It seems like every month we have some pretty big bills from them. Okay, almost $8,000 for streetlight repairs. What's
Well,
happening?
There, I know the one invoice, or one check that I issued, there was quite a few streetlight repairs, but there was also some building item repairs also with, you know, replacing ballasts and replacing this, that, whatever, when they break down, along with their monthly retainer for misdig sightings and that kind of thing, so.
Any other questions? If not, I need a motion to accept this check run.
Motion we pay the bills.
So moved.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, thanks, Rhonda.
And if I could just make a couple comments on some non-financial items. You may have noticed by the elevator, we have a box there where we're collecting books. One of our residents, Matthew LaShaw on Stonehurst, is doing this school project, collecting new or gently used books for children in Detroit. We all know how important it is to be a reader. You're going to learn. So if you have anything that you can donate, he's going to be collecting through the month of October for that.
What age groups?
Specifically infant to 8-year-olds.
Okay.
So, and then also, once again this year, the City Hall will be collecting items for the Capuchin Soup Kitchen and Four Paws, One Heart. So for Capuchin, they're always looking for winter clothing, whether it's coats, scarves, hats, gloves, also personal hygiene items. So, you know, if you go to a hotel and you grab a couple of those little bottles of shampoo and stuff.
You're encouraging that?
Yeah. And then Four Paws, One Heart, both of these charities will also accept any monetary donations, obviously. But Four Paws with its dog food, cat litter, towels, blankets, those kind of things. But whether you want to drop them off to the police desk or bring them upstairs, we'll hold them and make sure in December we'll get them all delivered.
Good, thanks, Rhonda.
Thank you.
Bruce, how's the Finance Committee?
Met last week, we went over a variety of items, specifically looking at the next year's budget that's upcoming. This year's kind of in the books already for us. We got the actuarial report, that you all got a copy of. We're 98% funded. I think the contribution was $267 this year. Something like that, and we've budgeted a lot more than that, and our budget is, we'll probably take the excess that we have and put it in the retiree health care fund. Our biggest challenge we're facing right now is funding the retiree health care going forward, and that's what we're having a lot of discussion about that. Otherwise, it's really business as usual, capital projects, road paving, getting the equipment that we purchased installed, and what are the needs of the departments in the next coming year. So, next Finance Committee meeting is the week before council, that Tuesday morning, 10 o'clock. All are welcome. We'll be here. So that's really what we're doing.
Bruce, will our auditor be here at the next meeting?
With
Did
the
we invite
report,
them?
yeah.
Yes.
The auditor, okay.
The report's not gonna,
And Sandy Rodham, too?
no,
No, just,
we are not bringing the actuary here too.
okay.
We do not want to be here all night. Remember last time? 2.5 hours. Remember I think it was the third permutation of the life expectancy with the 2020 mortality table. And at that point, somebody said, well, if we change the trajectory, will we hit the moon? You know, it was like, come on, it's just ridiculous. It's just absurd. So,
Okay, good presentation, Bruce, thanks. Public Safety?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just briefly, real quickly, I wanted to touch on the question that you had in regards to streetlights. You'll see bills ranging anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000. When we have a vehicle strike a light pole, we proceed against them and seek restitution, either through insurance. And I believe, excuse me, the one that's mentioned in this report is vehicle was uninsured, so we're seeking restitution in court. So a lot of those are reimbursed to us. The Sunday open house was a great weekend. We had a pretty fair turnout. Our thanks to Grosse Pointe Farms and Grosse Pointe Woods. They both sent down trucks. I was unsuccessful in getting back our 1923 pumper, but I'd like to get a picture of it for our annual report if possible. So, but I'm grateful to Lieutenant Nicholson and my staff they did a great job, and the kids had a great time, and so we were pretty pleased. We do that every even year. So, I had an opportunity last week to do a walkthrough of the Grosse Pointe Woods dispatch and lockup. The construction is going well. The facility will be very safe and state of the art. The prisoner area is very efficient, very safe for the officers as well as the staff. We plan to have a presentation to council. We're going to offer a tour to go through their building when they're completed. We're hoping construction will be completed in late November or first of the year. So, and they'd like to work through a few little bugs first, and then we'll invite all the council to come out and look at it. Chief John Kasanke from Grosse Pointe Woods and I are making some final adjustments on the dispatch lockup contract, and when we are complete, we're going to submit it to the city attorneys for their review. The 2018 IACP conference in Orlando was excellent. I appreciate the opportunity to attend. There were many great sessions. Law enforcement officials from all over the United States. It was a really comprehensive. Many of the sessions centered on legalization of recreational marijuana and some of the issues that are going on in some other states. And it's pretty scary, some of the organized criminal activity that has taken place.
Chief, talking about that, just to interrupt, how does the approval for starting tomorrow in Canada of marijuana affect us? Any effect here?
Well, it will affect drivers that are driving in the United States for OUID convictions. There's many open areas. There's many things yet to be finalized, which is the allowable THC limits, and so there's a lot of work to be done. It is on the ballot coming up, but I think it would be just as if the residents were U.S. residents. How it affects the commerce of it, I couldn't speculate.
Chief, did they talk about body cameras? You know, like I know that's something we've talked about for our own.
They did. There's a moving trend towards that, interfacing the body camera with the dash cameras. It is possible. Cameras are roughly $1,000 a piece, so we have 4 marked vehicles. So you're talking about an investment of $4,000 to $5,000, and probably some hard drive space to accommodate the additional data. But it is a trend that I think either 2 or 3 of the Grosse Pointes now have them.
What do you think about it for us? Is that something you're
Well, we
looking
had
at?
discussed it some time back, and it was kind of on the leading edge of it, and there was a lot of privacy issues that were being discussed, and some of those things are being worked through now. There's a lot of good policy out there, so I'd love to make a recommendation to council and let you evaluate the data and look at it and see what you think. It certainly is a trend in more criminally active communities. It's almost a must. We do have audio. When the officer's away from the car, he does record his audio, so when he's inside a house, he's recording all the time. But there is an advantage to video, so let me work on that, and I'll try and make a presentation.
All right, thank you.
What percentage of your activity is not captured by a dash cam? The majority of your activity that would potentially be troublesome is traffic stops.
Yes, all of our arrests would be videoed. Field sobriety tests would be all videoed.
So those are already on record. You have that.
Family trouble or something that would be away from the scope of the camera would be something that wouldn't be captured.
So that's really probably less than 20% of your activity at the most.
less than
5?
5 or 10%.
So 95% of your activity now is captured by a dash cam. Is that pretty accurate?
Correct. Now, there's always a contingency whether you had, if you have a person who gets out of the vehicle and
Yeah, there's
flees.
always the one-off.
Right.
But the majority of your bread and butter kind of, day-to-day activities.
As well as most of our FOIAs are pretty standard, OWI, booking room, dash camera, things like that. So it's, but yeah, you're correct, 5 to 10%, I would say.
So that's why a couple of years ago we didn't pursue it, was it's 90-10 rule. You're chasing, and you're imposing more obligation on the officer. Our community, these guys are chasing guys over, backyards. You know what I'm saying? They're not we're not chasing guys and that, all the bad things that really happen where you need a dash cam or a body camera. Knock on wood, we don't have that kind of
It's
activity.
interesting, the new tasers have a recordable audio video on it. So when you're ordering a person to surrender, you're actually videotaping them prior to any tasing that would take place. We don't have those units, but that's the next generation. Our new Ford Explorer is, for the supervisor vehicle, is in service. My thanks to Brett and to Scott DeGear, who did a fantastic job on this particular car. We upgraded some of the lights on it, and these lights are, the lifespan of these lights is like 25 years. So it's a very visible, it doesn't have a rack on top, but it's a very visible vehicle, and we're really happy to have it in service. Public Safety will be accepting applications for Public Safety Officer through this Friday, October 19th. We will be replacing 2 officers as soon as is possible. We're going to probably interview the last week of October. I have some applications. I was hoping for a few more, but we'll proceed with what we have. Grosse Pointe Shores, Grosse Pointe Woods, and Grosse Pointe Farms is making preparations to recommend a 3-city purchase of a compressor system to support our new breathing apparatus. Chief Jensen, Chief Kasanke, and I have submitted bids to the city managers in regards to making a 3-city purchase, which would give us state-of-the-art equipment at 1/3 of the cost of this compressor. So we're hoping to make. Grosse Pointe Woods has not yet gone to council with it, and so we're going to make a preparation to present something in November to you. So, and that's all I have at the moment. If you have any questions.
Any questions?
You said that we're gonna hire 2 officers. I know that you responded that we've lost one. Did we lose another?
We are going to. I've been informed. He was off. He had some surgery, and he will be probably I would say within the next 2 to 4 weeks. We will be down 2.
Okay, so in the interim, do you have enough coverage?
We do with overtime. We're heading out of the vacation period, so we've got some guys that are gone hunting, but I'm moving both of those officers who have left from one side. We have 4 platoons. They both left from the one side, so I'm moving an officer over to cover. So we're going to have 1 missing on each side, which will help the overtime situation. But it's going to take us some time to get them in service. We're looking at firefighter paramedics, and then we send them to the police academy. The academy starts in December, and it runs 17 weeks. So we hope to have 2 on board. It's a very unique hiring process in here, as Director Mitchell would tell you for a number of years. It's very difficult to hire in this community because of the standards we have, number 1, and 2, paramedics. We have gone after firefighter paramedics, and I have officers who have made great recommendations to us in regards to officers that are qualified, and we've hired some really excellent guys, but it's difficult to hire here because of the standards we have, and I don't want just any guy. I want the right guy.
How far do you reach? How
Pardon me?
far do you reach for people?
I've gone to all the academies. I sit on the board of the Macomb Police Academy, and I've been out there. We have put things on.
We're going out state and looking for these guys too, or anything? Or can somebody see that there's, from California, see there's a job here?
If you're a firefighter and you're in the National Registry as a paramedic, we could hire you. That's not been a normal avenue for us.
But,
Yeah.
you got somebody that you never know.
The hiring trend now is that we're hiring older guys and some guys they've been firefighter paramedics and they're looking for something more stable. something that pays a little better and with families perhaps, and that are more settled. So we're not going to be shifting personnel. So we're hopeful that we're going to be able to replace these guys and move forward. So.
It's better to work overtime and find your crew than to settle for what you don't. We've learned that the hard way.
Well, yeah, we have, and I have very high standards when it comes to these guys, and and I have sent guys to the police academy, officers to the police academy. I had a gentleman who was triple trained, and I passed on him because I thought, after the oral boards, I thought he was a better candidate, and he would be a better fit here in this community. So it's unique in that fact that we have very low crime, we have very low incidence of fire, and we have very low incidence of paramedic service. And so, you know, that's a special guy. A lot of young kids want to go. They want to tear it up, and that's just not us.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate of that.
No dirty Harrys here, you know.
Hey, Chief, I happen to be, you know, coming down Lake Shore within the past probably couple weeks, and there've been 2 bike car accidents. You know, I guess your investigations aren't done on them, but are we, you know, looking into those? What was the cause? Because you look pretty serious.
You're referring to the one at Hampton?
And that one yesterday, and then there was another one down across from Harry's house, down that one.
The one was not a bicycle.
Oh, okay.
It was a
Bicycle?
and the curb.
Okay.
But, and obviously, we look at those very seriously. And we write a lot of violations on Lakeshore Road, so we try and keep track.
The bike lost, I presume. That's the curb. Chief, is that investigation with the Woods still active? I know you were working with the,
Definitely, yes.
okay.
You got my email that
yes,
I had?
yes, thank you for responding.
Yeah, absolutely, and absolutely, it remains open and active.
Okay, good. Thank you, Chief. Good report. Brett? How are our leaves doing?
Oh, we're hanging in there. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and guests. Well, it's obvious fall is here, and the DPW has a lot of projects going on. Before I get started, I would like to announce that one of our longtime employees, Jeff Dupre, has retired as the city's water department supervisor. He served the village here for 29 years. He was a committed employee, and we will definitely be missing him. And as always, we wish our retirees well in their future endeavors. And Mike Way, an employee that's been with us 10 years or so, has taken over the responsibility as the water department supervisor.
Will he also still be helping out in the planting and decorating?
We have hired a employee. He's just almost ready to get rid of his probationary status. He'll be taking over the grounds, and Mike is coaching him.
Okay.
And we don't expect to have those 2 departments intermingle. Hopefully they'll be separate. Water department is a specialized department, and Mike has been very diligent in getting the credentials needed to do that, and he's worked alongside Jeff for 2 or 3 years now, and he's fitting right in, so it'll be a good fit. As you mentioned earlier, our leaf pickup started yesterday. This year we're going to continue what we did last year, and we are going to pick up the leaves in front of your home on your regular scheduled garbage pickup day. Keep in mind you can place the leaves at the curb anytime during the week. Just remember that they're going to be picked up on your leaf day, or on your scheduled pickup day. We have a lot of paving projects going on. Currently, the paving on Bell Mead has begun. The milling of the road took place yesterday. Hutch Paving is the contractor doing the work, and they did a wonderful job of cleaning up the millings after the street was milled. I know some of you may get down that street once in a while, and it's kind of unusual. They swept it real well, and then they vacuumed it, and things are nice and clean. Next, we look forward to seeing curb, manhole, and base repair and catch basin repairs being done. This will probably take a week or so. They'll get the work done, and then we have to wait for the concrete to set up. And after this concrete's cured, which usually takes about a week, then the road will be repaved. Also with DTE, Colonial Road, which was the last street in Grosse Pointe Shores to have its natural gas system updated, is going to get repaved. The work is scheduled to begin sometime between October 22nd and the 26th. The process is going to be the same as Bell Mead. They're going to mill it, do some base repair, structure repair, and then repair and repave.
And DTE's paying for that, is
And
that right?
DTE is paying for that.
Wow, what a good deal.
Yes.
We're gonna put that in our road work. Who's our contractor? do you know?
Good negotiation.
Yes, it's ASI, Asphalt Specialties.
They're good.
They're a big company. We haven't worked with them a lot, but we're looking forward to work with them. We had a pre-construction meeting a week ago, and we had a few issues we wanted to work out with the base material. We had a report that our base was bad, and they were to charge us, I think I asked for $50,000 to make a repair. And that didn't sound good to us, so we instructed our engineers to go out and do some soil borings. And as of last Thursday, the results of the soil boring say that our base is in great shape. Thank you very much. We're not going to give you $50,000, so that'll work out pretty good. So I think we saved really well there. But also, the ground restoration in that street has not begun yet, and they will not start it until after the paving is done. So it's probably going to be 2-3 weeks before they start the ground restoration. Also, across the street, the park entrance work has started. So far, the project's gone quite smooth over there. The curb and gutter work and the drainage structures have been installed. And I think tomorrow or the next day, you're going to see the base go in for the roadway. And hopefully, the week after that, we'll possibly see some pavement on the ground. So that's moving forward as well. Blairmore Court, another street that we're doing some work on. We had some saw cutting and materials delivered there. My goodness, it was probably 2-3, maybe a month ago, 2-3 weeks, maybe a month. But tomorrow, they're scheduled to start removing concrete and installing a set of catch basins and some manholes in that. And the plan is to have that the work completed 2 weeks after they get started. So things are going to move fast there. Fred Lees, one of our DPW employees, has been working hard on winterizing our irrigation systems. He's got a lot to do, and he's got a lot done. This time of year is usually it's all hands on deck with everything. And with this cold weather that's coming, he's got his hands full. But yet, we still need to winterize our splash pad. That is something we really need to take care of. I know he's sweating bullets right now because they're projecting freezing temperatures tonight. The bathhouse and the harbor has not been winterized. And I think with this cold snap we had last fall in our harbor, we had a lot of damage from freezing last year. So it's my expectation we're probably going to winterize that harbor a little bit earlier than normal. Normally, our forecasted date is November 15th. But I think with this cold weather here, maybe after we get these other high priority things done, we'll just go ahead and winterize that the first week of November. The gardening staff is still working on removing flowers and cutting back our perennials. It should be done by now, but man-hours have been a premium for us. It's just things have been so busy. So as these plants are removed, as soon as they're done, we need to get the tulip bulbs that Rhonda was talking about earlier and daffodil bulbs. They need to go in the ground. But we have a deadline with that as well because we have to get them in the ground before the frost comes. So again, this time of year is just crazy with us. So, but anyway, with all this going on, we're still able to have our coal patch crew out there on a regular basis, and we have a lot of man hours spent putting this Boo Fest together across the street at the park. It's scheduled for tomorrow evening at 6 p.m., and I hope everyone can make it. I don't know if you have the opportunity to do it yet, but it's a great time for our young residents. And also, when you came in, you may have noticed a stormwater display in the hallway. Please take a minute to stop by and take a look at it on your way out. It's a lot of information regarding stormwater. There's generally, when people get water bills, that's one of the questions that they like to ask is about stormwater. So we had this display brought in for 3 or 4 weeks. Give our residents the opportunity to take a look and see what's going on with that. And that's all I have for this evening. I'm sure I'm missing something. If there are any questions, I could try to answer them.
Any questions?
Yeah, how are we coming on the gatehouse?
The gatehouse, we're waiting for a foundation to go in. Mark, if you can, moving forward.
Let's see.
So at this point, nothing's been started?
No, right now they're working on the entranceway, yes. I would think once,
What's at the base on the check
Currently
register, I
paved.
think?
I think that was
slab?
the concrete at the tennis court.
Oh, okay.
Yes, you know, we put that exposed aggregate in at the
Oh.
tennis court. I
Oh,
think
that
that's
wasn't
what.
for the base of the.
No, there's been
the
nothing
house?
done.
No. We did get a call today from our engineers, and Hutch Paving, the company that was gonna put in the foundation, has declined doing the job. This call came in after 4 o'clock today, and we're already on the phone trying to get somebody else to get that stuff going, but it's moving. I mean,
I think, in light of the fact that this contract was awarded in April, I'd like to move that we rescind the awarded contract from Abcor and put this thing back out for bid.
Is that a motion?
Yeah.
Is there support?
Have they, what's the problem with them? They're not.
It's lack of
responding.
performance as far as I can see. I mean, they haven't done anything. They could have built this thing, they could have started in April.
Is it EPCOR that's having the problem, or is it our administration that is not giving the okay for this?
I think it's a combination of things. Certainly, we've been on them to begin. I would say you will incur costs that have already been, material has been ordered, windows have been selected, et cetera, by the contractor in conjunction with the architect, and I think some of the staff have been involved. I would not recommend doing so at this point, but that's council's call.
Well, does the contract have a specific finish date by? No.
Do-
So
do-
are they in material breach of the contract? Because that's the only way. And does it have a termination clause? Without any of those answers before us, I think would be premature to vote.
It had some beginning dates that have been agreed to, but there was no,
Completion date?
no, there was not.
So there, we don't, and that's is there a termination provision in the contract?
We certainly could terminate, but note that we will incur costs for materials that have been ordered or things like that,
So we don't even know what our exposure is.
Consequential
I think it would
date?
be premature to cancel it without knowing all those numbers.
But did we change that? We changed the work order, is that right? Or did we change a window, Brett? And that caused, because I know we approved.
That wasn't significant in terms of, the original cost of this was significantly higher than the donation that the city received for it. And there were cutbacks, one agreed to several months ago with respect to the actual design, and you saw the actual design and the changes in that, for example, the clear story windows and other things. But, you know, they are, can never hold my breath with contractors. However, there has been progress in terms of, I didn't even know about the one issue with respect to that, but that was new as of today at 4.
well,
You said,
4:30,
So are we responsible for the foundation or is the contractor?
we are.
So we're gonna spend $60,000 and we're not even having the contractor put the foundation in?
That's my understanding, yes.
I mean, I could be way out of line here, but I just think for the size of the structure and for what it is, $60,000 seems exorbitant. And now that I know that we're not even doing the foundation, it's just, it's not adding up. And then the fact that we've been delayed since April, I really don't understand what's going on.
The contractor, if you want to fire the contractor and it's their responsibility to put the foundation, and we haven't provided a foundation for them to build on, what basis do we have to fire the contractor? We can't give them something to work from, right?
Okay.
I mean, does that make sense?
No, it does make sense.
Wait, you're saying today the foundation company called you today and said they're not putting the
I
foundation
got a
down?
call from the engineer about 4:30 today.
So they can't begin work until we put the foundation that we're responsible.
It's just a concrete pad with a 42-inch frost footing?
yeah.
That is correct.
So why can't the same guy?
So during all this time when I've been asking month after month about this,
You call the guy
we
who does
just
your
never
curbs.
decided to pour the foundation?
Actually, I called Blackie today, and he
Yeah,
said
it's just kind of weird.
I might be able to slide it in, but yeah, this is something that was contracted with the paving company across the street that's doing the work. Apparently, Abcor and the paving company had gotten together and came up with a deal, and the paving company backed out today, so.
They don't want to be in the cement.
Again, it was after work. The engineer was not in his office, and I was at home when the call came, and I don't have all the details yet. I'll
That'll
get
work.
them tomorrow, I'm sure.
The other thing is we aren't going to use the building until the spring.
If it's built,
It'll be built. One question for you though, with Mark, both of you can answer. So, is there an electrical plan in place now for electrical to the building? That's part of the foundation plan to run the conduit?
We are, yeah, First Art Electric is going to install or supply the building with electric.
And have you anticipated
We
any?
already have the pipe in the ground. That's something we can control, and
So if you wanted to add security cameras, or you're gonna need an extension for the parking arm and all that, that stuff's there, and you've got expansion capability to run,
we'll have the power there.
and cable TV, closed circuit TV cameras or security cameras and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we already run raceways from the transformer up by the building when we did that work previously. So the pipes are already in the ground for that, so.
So the conduit's there, okay.
That's just,
I'll have to call First Art Electric tomorrow to let them know, because they were working together so he can get the conduit in the concrete.
that's why
And
I
I
asked.
call him today and say, hey, you're ready to go, and then we get this other call. So again, things are just happening right now, so.
Because the
Right.
big thing is the expansion of, it hasn't been decided a security plan for the park in terms of cameras, a plate reader, or those things. And those additions, which probably will be coming, you can anticipate that you're gonna need a place to put the wires. But now that we're doing it, even if you put the pipe in the ground, then you just fill it later, and if you don't use the pipe, you've got an out.
Correct, and that's
Right.
already in.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, we're good. Yep, yes.
Brett, was this the first attempt that we've made to put a foundation in with Hutch?
No, I think they've been talking about it for months.
It's been agreed to previously, once they were given the contract on the road. And there was some talk, APCOR had handled that directly themselves. And one of their people involved is a local resident, so we have been in contact with him on a regular basis to make sure. And that's why I said, there has been, you haven't seen a lot of progress with respect to it. And it's amazing that it has taken this long for some of these things to come to light. But there's material ordered, agreements have been made on the roof structure, the material to go inside, and the floor on the inside of the thing, and all that stuff is pretty much underway or about to be signed off on.
So we would have,
But since April, is this the first attempt to put a foundation down now?
Since April, the agreement was for Hutch Paving Company, whoever got the job. I mean, we was expecting, what was the other?
Nagel
We was
Paving.
expecting Nagel to do it, and then Nagel's
Price was
out of the,
unrealistic.
yep, so we ended up with Hutch now to do this work across the street. As far as the drive goes, and it was discussed that they would put the foundation in, and now that's,
So Hutch, we have them contracted for the drive across the street. They're also doing Belmead for us. They've
Correct.
also done another paving. No, those are the only two jobs. Why are they backing out at this point?
I don't know, I haven't talked to him yet.
it just seems like a small component. I mean, they're
Right.
doing the road
It's a
for
small component.
$130,000, which
Yeah.
was 60,000 less than Nagel Paving, I think, at least
Yeah.
The
60,000.
thing that's unfortunate is they're obviously gonna have trucks of cement coming to do the curb work over on Belmead now. And
Oh, we have curb work on Belmead. There's a lot more curb that has to be done across the street. We have sidewalks.
I'm just saying, like, how much extra work is it to pour some cement?
Well, the problem is digging the footings. We have 4,800 volt wires that go through there, and Hutch and Nagel are not builders, and, when they put a street in or something like that, they do it, you see their dozers over there, and their rollers and
Oh.
excavators,
So you
and
gotta hand dig it?
it's gonna have to be hand
Hand dug?
done. But
Oh.
again, they agreed to do it, and they said, hey, no problem, we should be able to handle that, and,
The reason they're busy, the season's getting short, everybody's getting pushed because of the strike that occurred for 3 weeks. And there's all kinds of extra hours and work that they can pick up, and it's not their bailiwick. This curb guy, there's their subcontractor who did the curb work over there. He's not a foundation guy. So he's gonna do curb work, and he does that much, and he's got more curb work than he can do between now and the end of the season. And they just go, dollar end, if they were slow, and then we were a long-term customer, different. But the guy he's gonna call is Blackie. He's the guy, he's his go-to guy. He's the guy who can, he fixes everything around here. He's kinda, and he's dependable, reliable, and very cost-effective.
One-man company, and he gets his helpers when he needs it, and we'll give him a shout. And
So we could have called him in April and had the foundation put in then, right?
Well, possibly.
That is likely,
In April, our plans were to work with Nagel because they were doing a great job for us with the tennis courts.
Yeah. All right, well, I appreciate getting an answer anyways. Thank you.
You bet. Anything else?
Oh, Brett, the seawall splash guard, do you want to
Yes.
mention that, or?
Well, right now, Councilman Seeley has introduced us to a company, Malcolm Marine Construction, who's currently welding on a extension to the seawall. They're welding it to the cap of the seawall, going to raise it up, I think it's about 12 inches,
18.
18 inches, and hopefully that'll keep some of that water splashing over the seawall. Currently, with this high water, it's causing a lot of damage over there, and hopefully this will help out.
When they project to be done with that?
Well, forecast was a week, and I know
I was out there today, they got quite a bit done.
Yeah, it's 75% in. They should be done probably by the end of this week. There's a couple of things that we're gonna do. I went out there today to look at the progress and talk to the contractor, and they've got a small float that they're gonna put in the water on a calm morning and go across the entire section, all 800 feet. And, I think about every 6 feet, we're gonna weld a support from the cap directly to the wall itself,
that'll be good.
because I'm concerned about ice flows lifting up the entire installation. The other thing that you're aware of that's a concern of mine is that we need to backfill the wall with, or the splash guard with some rock, because the weight of the rock is really what's gonna help it resist the force of the waves pounding against it. I think it's also a good idea to maybe run some sheet rubber on the, you can get a roll of rubber like they use for roofs, and you just roll it out, and along the base of the seawall where it meets the cap, there's gaps. And if you put that in there and then put the rock on top of it, it would actually help keep water out and prevent ice from building up. And it's not a big deal. You can get like an 18-inch wide roll of rubber and just roll it out and then put the rock in. But I think it would probably help the project last longer. But it looks good. I think they've done a nice job. I took some pictures if anybody wants to see them. And
Do you have the availability for the rock? I mean, do you know what he's talking about as far as putting that rock?
I
in?
met with a contractor today trying to supply, we're not gonna be able to get rock, it's just.
You're gonna
way
call
expensive.
Clancy?
We're gonna try getting Clancy to crush up some concrete like we did last time. They actually crush concrete into like 4-inch to 8-inch sections,
Okay,
and that's what we have over there now.
okay,
We were gonna try to copy the house next door that has boulders.
okay.
You could call Dale's Landscaping, he can get those
Oh,
right.
he'd love to, but
Or the rock shop out in Fenton.
yeah, I would probably be looking for work if you got the bill for that.
That's right.
So the broken down concrete to use in place of rock and stone, is it as effective?
I think so. That's what we have there now. And we did that a couple years ago. And I think we paid
'Cause
right
we're not gonna
around
do this again.
20,000 to get that.
Versus how much would rock be?
I would probably say triple that. The stones were very expensive.
Yeah, those are big river
They have
round.
boulders.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're
Wow.
nice. I mean, it's really
The
nice.
size of grapefruit, maybe a little bit bigger.
Right.
Crushed concrete should be just as heavy.
That's what I would think. That's what we have there now. And it's the larger ones.
It's just riprap's all it is.
That's exactly what it is. That's what they make riprap out of. They put it in
Oh,
baskets.
yeah, I
Okay.
see that.
And Clancy can make it that size. That's what I hear, so.
Yeah,
I
he
met
does.
with them today. So I'll hopefully get some information on that soon.
There's no shortage of that.
They're ripping out concrete like crazy. It should be real cheap to get broken concrete right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we could just pull some trucks over to 696 and do that. couldn't we?
So,
Brad, one last question. I got a call this afternoon from a resident, said that he had a $5,000 a water bill.
Oh, really?
And he said the city investigated and said it was valid, or
Could be.
5,000. I mean, no swimming pool, no,
We've had
nothing.
We've had some pretty high bills out there, and with this new water meter system, I'll tell you what, we're getting a lot of kudos out there because we're able to show people when they use their water and how it's being used. We don't know what they put it on, but we can say, well, on such and such a day, you started using a lot of water, and then it stopped on this day.
Well, see, that's,
Generally speaking, it's green
If
grass.
he hasn't checked it,
it's on deep lens. But he said that it was like 4,400, and then the city came, sent somebody, and said, oh, we made a mistake. It should be 4,900. And he said your meter was
Might
wrong,
have been a
so.
little bit slow, yeah. What happens, what we do is, when we put a new meter in, we check the old one to see how slow it was running, because meters normally slow down, and that's why they probably got that. If you can give me the address, I can.
Okay,
check
okay.
into that.
Good, thanks. Thanks, Brad. All right, good report.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Park Committee? Doug?
Okay. Excuse me. We had a meeting on the 4th of October, and we talked about Brett Marshall gave us an update with the Improvement Foundation. Tennis courts, pretty much a done deal. They've all been landscaped and taken care of, so I think we're all done with that. We talked a little bit about the master plan, the gatehouse update. Mark gave us an update on that. We don't have just now Brett talked about that seawall thing too, that's going on out there. We don't have a date of the next meeting. We will meet one more time this year, but I recommended that we have a combined meeting with the harbor once a year, the park and the harbor, potentially, if we could do that. And I'll talk to you about that, John. There are two integral parts out there, but I think, just see what they're doing, see what we're doing. And so we said that that'd be fine, but I'll get with you and work the details out. That's all I have.
can I ask you a couple? So the park committee is gonna come forward with recommendations then on the security upgrades with the park entrance. Are you guys gonna come forward then with the cost and timing for the new park pass that we've talked about with the barcode labeling? Is that gonna be your guys' responsibility?
Probably. I mean,
Well, we don't need that's what the critical issue is gonna be for you guys, is that when this thing comes forward, are we gonna put surveillance cameras in the park? Are they gonna be mounted where? Is the chief gonna, Chiefs did some background work on that. We've talked about improving the accountability of entrance to the park, so we get metrics on usage. We're gonna put a barcode in. And all those things gotta be decided and agreed to, and now that the season's finally basically ended, if we wanna have that ready to roll by the time this gatehouse is built, maybe sometime April of some year, we wanna have that.
yeah, we'll have to look at rewriting the whole park plan then, probably.
Well, it's a security plan, so that we have that, because the finance committee's trying to figure out how much money we got to budget for you guys to be able to do all this. Because I think these are critical things that we've got to have done in terms of doing that. Then we got to make a decision as a group, are you going to put surveillance cameras in? You're going to put a plate reader in when you come into the park? And where are you going to put monitors? You're going to have one in the new gatehouse? Are you going to have one at the existing ranger station? So we've got that, and are you going to have historical? Are you going to put it on a hard drive? And all that kind of detail that we got to know. So you guys are going to do that.
harbor.
Yeah.
Two things. One, we can make a recommendation to the park committee about the hardware that's required and the software that's required, internet access at that building to accomplish the park pass, the computerized park pass, where it gives you a digital recording of the who's entering, who's leaving, etc. In regards to the cameras, I have a meeting next week with Conti Electric. We generally know where the footprint is going to be, but we wanted to make sure that we can, to the locations where we're going to put cameras, or make recommendations for cameras, we want to make sure we have the electric and the internet access.
I'm just saying, this is the time right now that we need to, I know we had talked to finance about it, and you're already ahead of the game, that's terrific. But at this, you know, so if the, but that's really the jurisdiction of the park committee, not not the finance committee. And I just wanna make sure that we're,
We'll send you a bill.
that you're on the, that you got, that
We'll
you're
send
the.
you a bill.
We'll make a
We'll put it
recommendation.
in the appropriate spot.
But marking these guys so that everybody knows what page we're on, because, then we can bring it to council and make a decision, I don't know, on how many levels of security you wanna put in there and that kind of
Well,
thing.
let's
Well, you
start
got a
with the
new
first
guard
level
shack.
of security, and let's get that gatehouse in there.
Right,
I mean,
it's-
that's our number one stopping point right there.
But if you put the gatehouse in, are you gonna have a security camera there?
No.
Are you gonna put a plate reader at the entrance arm?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's all part of that security plan, Tina. And you can do them concurrently, they're not mutually exclusive.
Right, but we're talking about, like, chief is meeting, like, to where they're gonna put cameras, and I'm just hearing dollar bill, and we haven't even decided or voted if we're going to have cameras
How do we
yet.
vote if we don't know the money?
We gotta find out what we're putting in.
Right, right. It's,
Before we
it's,
start voting the money.
You gotta have a plan, and you gotta have the dollars associated with the plan, and some options. Then, you know, because at this point, philosophically, everyone has agreed that the security at the park is gonna be enhanced. To what level are we going to make it TSA compliant? Or, you know, are we gonna make it loosey-goosey? Okay, I think everybody's consensus is, I want a barcode reader on a ID tag, not for security, for usage, for demographics, so we can know that. And when you put a barcode on, are you gonna do like the Woods does? Are you gonna bring up my picture? Are we gonna make all our residents come in and get a photograph on their card? I don't know. I'm not saying yes or no. I'm just saying those are decisions that have to be started now, so that, one, when we do our budgeting, we know what kind of money we're gonna put in. But more importantly, come April next year, when this thing is implemented, we're ready to go for the new season. We can't start this and say, well, June, we're gonna change the system. We got one shot to issue these passes. Let's try to be collective and do it correctly. 'Cause we've talked about this for months. I just wanna make sure the finance committee's not gonna run with it. It's the park committee. That's their responsibility and their opportunity. And I mean, Doug's perfectly capable of doing all that. I mean, it's not that. It's just, let's do that because we haven't gotten any direction otherwise to do it. So that's why I was bringing it up.
By November, we could have a recommendation to you on what our camera expert is talking about, and as well as what's necessary for the pass readers.
Yeah.
And give it to you and let you.
right.
Sure.
As we've agreed, this is an evolving area. First, we need the gatehouse, then we need the arm, I think. And then after the arm, I mean, the Grosse Pointe Yacht Club doesn't have bar-readable passes at the gatehouse. I mean, at that point, they just have an arm. If there's someone there, the arm's down, you show them your pass or your decal. If it's not, they just leave it up. I mean, I thought that in evolving here, first we need the gatehouse. We have the arm, and we have a gate guard checking passes. Bruce's idea is excellent. I think that's like stage 2, bar readable, so that we can gather the data. Know, are we having, the young people are using the park, the middle-aged people are using the park, who's using the park? We need to know so that we can tailor our activities to the user, the end user of the park. And then, of course, we talked about security cameras and things like that. And, but again, having a real-time system where officers are reviewing or dispatch reviewing, we indicated was probably out of the question if we did something. It would be more just random, and it would be helping us solve a crime. What we're trying to do with the gatehouse is prevent the crime. Solving the crime's nice too, but we want to prevent the crime. And I think that's the gatehouse. Okay, no, prevent any incidents. Prevent the incidents. So the appearance of crime, just the mere appearance of crime. Okay. Well, thank you. Good discussion there about the park committee. Harbor Committee, John? Tell us how our harbor's doing,
Good
John.
evening, Mayor and Council. It's great to see you again. 2 weeks ago, Tom and I walked the entire harbor, and we reviewed the wells for boats in the PWCs, seawalls, dock planking, and dock pilings. In regards to the wells, at this time, we're over 90% compliant with vessel size and well size, and we're organizing now for next year to get 100% compliance. We're almost there. And the non-compliant boaters, he has been contacting them since that's his job, so he'll get that done. We also talked about enforcing kayak storage, not on the docks, which some people do, which is a very extreme safety hazard, and also dinghy storage in the wells. Maybe we could store dinghies in the PWC areas, and there's a couple unusable wells, and that will generate more income from the harbor if we could do that. Also, as you stated earlier, the seawall has been repaired. We looked at that, and so I'll leave that to the experts on how that is progressing. We did note there are some dock planks that are starting to deteriorate, so we'll have to look at those in the spring and see what the ice and the snow has done over the winter. Also, we'll know what dock pilings have to be driven back into the ground, and also we'd like to make some of those battleship docks maybe 5 to 10 feet longer, and those boats will be in compliance, plus you can charge them more for being in there, and I also get bigger boats in there. And Tom ordered harbor maps that'll be for the upstairs office and the guardhouse or gatehouse at this time.
Okay, great.
That's about where we're at with that.
Mark and I had lunch with the yacht club, and with the marina people, and they were saying that they have a real opportunity they're looking for space for some of their members in larger wells. So have you guys got a plan maybe this winter when you have a occupancy figured out to go to the yacht club and see what their list is? Maybe you can work a deal with those guys?
Sure.
I mean, they've seen, we told them we have some open wells. You have open wells. They have a big demand, which surprised me, especially for larger wells.
Yes, they do. They have 28
Remember
open wells coming up next year. I know that.
And they said that they were really raising their rates.
5%.
And the marinas on 9 Mile up there have really raised their rates. Because we're projecting 3%, I think. And we may be.
They're going to do 5%. If you pay up front, you get a 2% discount. So that's 3%.
But the other marinas up there, Miller and those, I guess their rates are really gone up.
And that's another thing we talked about for non-residents. I think we're at a 20% surcharge. I think you could up that a little bit, also 25 or 30%.
So that's good. Every dollar helps.
Good.
Oh, yeah.
So you're gonna make, is that something the harbor committee is gonna recommend then to Mark to raise the rates for non-residents in the next, and we're gonna publish that by the time the renewal comes out, because you do that, in December?
That'd be a great idea. Sure.
I'm trying to push it.
I understand what you're saying. I understand.
It's like,
Because we're on a prepayment program basically right now. I mean, it's,
Yeah, have February and then May, February.
I mean, those rates have got to be set and be out early.
I thought we set something up, Bob, in the Parks
It was
Committee last year.
3% for 3 years.
3% for 3 years.
But I think the market has changed, that we can charge more and
That's
support
right.
that for non-residents.
Well, I think for non-residents also, you need to consider is not only are they just parking their boat there, but they're using our pool, they're using the splash pad, they're using the grills. That this is kind of like a little club for non-residents and what they're using. So that may be a good basis for the increase in rates.
No argument from me.
John, are we going to have a board with all the boats so
Yeah,
that?
Tom's got that order.
It's already, it's here. It was sent, I think both of them were sent out to Magic Graphics.
Yeah, he's said he's got it up. I haven't talked to him since we met 2 weeks ago.
Oh, that'll be nice, and people will know what's available. Okay, great. Good report, John, thank you. Infrastructure, Bob?
Two things. First of all, what did I do with that? A couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago, residents on Oxford wanted some lights installed at the gate entrance, and that's been completed. We did some research, and I got to give some credit to the Historical Society of Grosse Pointe. We thought that was part of the inner suburban rail system, but that ceased operation in about 1926. The building the entrance is probably part of a gate. No one really knows, there's no pictures available. It was built about 1930. So, and it was called the Oxford Bus Stop. but it's better known as the Maid bus stop. 'Cause that's where all the maids went to get on the bus. The rail system started because the buses became prevalent. A little bit of history. There was 29 rail systems operating within the Detroit metropolitan area back in the 20s. 29.
Wow.
So, and all ended up becoming what now is DSR, Detroit Streets and Railway System. But anyhow, that light's done, complete. Looks pretty good. A while ago, somebody made a recommendation, maybe looking, but I'm going to pass this down. This is not for voting for you. Look at awning over the entrance to the building. There's an estimate. You can pass it down. That's just going to take a look at it and see any comments back. There's a cost estimate on the bottom.
Who wants this?
Recommended
It was my idea.
down the end.
Okay.
Take a look at it.
This is an idea because we keep losing, the cement keeps cracking on the steps because of frost and freezing thaw, and then you don't have to keep cleaning the snow off in the winter.
By the way, the repair looks good. Yeah,
But it's not
nice
gonna-
job.
Yeah.
But it won't last. I can
I
guarantee you.
understand, but it looks good.
And this is just something for you to take a look at.
Where-
You know, we can talk about it later.
Oh, boy.
But it's not cheap. Awnings are not cheap. And Belle Isle Awning has been pretty reasonable in pricing things for the city. They have, I've known them in Metropolis first. I grew up down the street from Monroe as a kid, so I know them very well. That's a lot of money. So it's just something to take a look at.
Is it
that's
an
all I-
all-year awning? Is this,
Yeah.
it's all year, it can
You
stay?
wouldn't have it on that, the springs to look at.
It's a side piece to block the wind coming in.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah. It would save the porch a little bit, but stamped concrete doesn't, weather well in cold weather.
You could put curtains on the side, the clear curtains on those snowy days to roll them down.
Right.
So we can get the drifting and all the other stuff in there.
Yeah, that can work.
What does it? Oh,
On the north side, yeah, the water side.
this will make your life too easy.
There's a doorman right
Make your
here,
life
too.
too easy.
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor, for that part.
Okay, Bob, thank you. Improvement Foundation, Brett?
Mr. Mayor, good evening. Not much to really talk about. Our next meeting will be November the 12th. Two items of discussion that could be talked about tonight would be the potential of a awning over the new tennis court pad. That was brought to our attention. I'll take it to our trustees at the next meeting. Other than that, we are still looking at a potential addition to the top lot, the little playscape area. That's still in discussion with the projects committee. Other than that, again, we haven't met since our last meeting, so I'll be able to have a full report to you in November when council meets again.
Okay, good. And we'll
Alright.
see you tomorrow at the Boo Fest, right?
We'll be there.
Okay, thanks, Brett.
Thanks, Brett.
Legal report, Brian? Anything
Mayor.
going on, legal?
No. That's my report. I went to Panama for a weekend, and saw the Panama Canal,
Oh, did you? Oh.
30 feet from, not even that close to the boats going through. It's amazing. I'll show you pictures later. Anybody else? Since the date of the last city council meeting, held on September 18th, city attorney's been engaged in the following activities on behalf of the city. First, we had our usual raft of Freedom of Information Act requests. One was for information on assessed city parcels that are located in Macomb County's residential parcels, of course. A FOIA request for Deep Lands Development's plans information. Guess who? A request regarding rental properties in the city. And then finally, most recently, just within the last couple of days, request by an outfit called, I think it's called Dark Knight, K-N-I-G-H-T. And they keep sending in requests for tax rolls, and this time around they're asking for 2017 summer and winter tax roll information. So we've prepared responses to the preceding three that I mentioned and not yet to the last one. We also reviewed and researched the sales tax question that was raised by the city concerning its concession stand that's operated in the city park over the summer season, whether or not sales tax should be collected by the city on sales made over there. And it's more complicated than you might think, because there's no sales tax on a hot dog and there is sales tax on a bag of chips. And, you know, it comes down to account, and then there's a sales tax on a glass of Coca-Cola. So it comes down to what's food and what's convenience item, I guess.
So you offer a combo and just say a hot dog includes the other and you don't pay tax?
Well, that's a good question. Let us research that.
You gotta stir up another.
The long and the short of it is, you know, the city is required to collect tax on non-food items, and, you know, it's not a lot of money, and they're just gonna have to do their best next year when what's the name of the outfit, I'm sorry?
Full Circle?
Full Circle comes back, and just tell them to, you know, keep track, and then they're.
Do we do it or full circle? I mean, because
Full
we're.
Circle will have to account to the city.
Right,
And the
right.
city will have to do rough
If we
justice
all
on.
just tipped in
how much
25,
tax.
20 bucks, we pay the sales tax
For the whole summer.
It's only really 600 bucks or 700 bucks all summer.
Yeah, it's minuscule.
Ridiculous.
We also are preparing an ordinance amendment, proposed ordinance amendment regarding the adoption of the current version of the International Fire Code. Right now, the city relies, in its ordinances, has incorporated the 2000 Fire Code, and it's been amended 3 or 4 times, and so we're preparing an amendment that will, to the ordinance, that will just allow the city, as the ordinance's amendment, to adopt whatever is current, adopt and apply whatever is current. We also reviewed, if you remember last month, there were 3 city residents here who were complaining about mice and rats, and people that have bird feeders in their front yards and so forth, and attracting mice and rats and so on. And was it a nuisance? Are they dangerous animals under the harboring ordinance that we have in place? And I think the bottom line on it, for the benefit of those people, and I know they're not here tonight, but the bottom line for their benefit is that the city does have a nuisance ordinance that deals with this sort of situations. Specifically, the city can ask the property owner to either take down the bird feeders or get out there nightly and clean up the, you know what, that, you know, is the stuff that the mice and rats and others are feeding on. Doesn't appear to be a dangerous animal sort of thing that would fall into the dangerous animal ordinance. That's more for, you know, bad dogs and feral pigs and things like that, so.
So would our recommendation, if they called the city hall or asked one of us, would be to call the police and
Issue a nuisance
issue a
citation.
nuisance? Okay.
Yeah.
And then your staff would take care of it at that point? Okay. You have? Was it positive?
We made a request. I'm not sure about
Okay, and what are we doing about following up for compliance, so to make sure that,
we will utilize
okay.
Okay, also, we have consulted with the city regarding a recent neighbor complaint concerning alleged monitoring of that neighbor and harassment of that neighbor by an adjoining member. It appears that the claims are probably baseless, but we're going to be issuing a response to the neighbor that's got these concerns. Under the benefit plan category, we were contacted by the city and by the city's investment advisors and asked to take a look at some proposed amendments to a limited partnership agreement for the Barings Fund, which is one of the assets held in the city's pension fund. We conferred with the city and the investment advisor on it. We researched the limited partnership agreement amendments, and we prepared a memorandum to the city's pension committee regarding those amendments. They had to do primarily with the fees that were chargeable by the fund, the Barings Fund, the leverage limits under that plan, debt to equity ratios and reserves. I understand that the pension committee met and we were okay with the proposed amendments, and Pension Committee met, considered our memorandum presentations by the investment advisors as well, and agreed to approve and adopt the changes. On the D-Plans Drive matter, a new plat plan, preliminary plat plan has been submitted. It was submitted to the Planning Commission on September 25th. The Planning Commission reviewed it on September 25th, conditionally approved the plat plan. There's some, I'll say, preconditions to further city council action on the plat plan. In connection with that, we talk to the city engineer, the city planner, counsel for the developer, reviewed the Traffic Improvement Association report on the proposed plan. The Planning Commission is going to be meeting next Tuesday, October 23rd, for the sole purpose of approving the minutes of the September 25th Planning Commission meeting, and then the city will be asked to, city council will be asked to review and potentially approve the preliminary plat plan at its meeting in November. And in connection with the D-Plans project, we also talked with the city about some fencing and screening concerns that have been raised by adjacent and nearby neighbors, and that sort of thing.
And what was the culmination of that discussion?
Put up fencing and screening.
Okay, well, some of the complaints have been the fencing and the screening, so.
Well, yeah, it's kind of a catch-22, you know, the minute you say the fencing and screening comes down, somebody else is gonna squawk that fencing and screening should be up. My judgment is the fencing and screening should be up, and, you know, notwithstanding, you know, somebody thinks it's unsightly. It's always unsightly.
It's a safety hazard,
It is,
too.
right, that's correct. It's also a requirement under the county's soil
Yeah.
erosion sedimentation control for a certain level. Yes,
Right.
correct, yeah.
Well, is that still a active demolition site? Is that what were we calling it, an active?
Open demolition.
Okay.
I don't know if the
Still
permit's,
open.
is the permit still open?
Permit's been just recently closed, from what Tom told me after the meeting. But again, with some of the vegetation and stuff that's been removed, certainly construction sites like that need to be fenced, or we'd have an obligation for people accessing the site, et cetera, as well as debris flowing, or depends on the wind conditions, flying around and stuff, and that's usually the request. So, you may recall, we discussed this, came up at the Finance Committee meeting.
Yeah.
I think several of you had calls about this from neighbors. But it is an active construction site, and it needs to be fenced, and that's one of our requirements under the ordinance that a couple of years ago was changed with respect to one of the Kruger sites and one of the other new home sites, so. Okay, and then finally, we were recently contacted by the city engineer regarding some upcoming compliance dates with respect to the Southeast Macomb Sanitary District contract that was entered into between the city and the district a couple of months ago, 3 months ago now, I guess. And basically, we communicated with both the city engineer and the council for the district regarding those requirements, and you know, exchange of telephone calls and correspondence and that sort of thing, and that's you know, that's pretty much it. I think the city engineers are going to take it from here. That is it. That's my report. I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you might have.
Any questions for Brian?
Yeah, Brian, Bruce brought up something that I think is valid. Going forward on our city contracts where we award contracts to people, we should have a termination clause, and we should also have a data completion clause with penalties.
Agree.
All right, good addition, good addition. Any other questions of Brian?
Let me before. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's two things, right? Termination.
Termination clause, data completion clause with penalties. And maybe even an incentive clause
Yeah,
for
right,
early
right.
completion.
Completely unrelated.
Go ahead.
You know, we entered into this new contract with the sewage district.
Uh-huh.
And some of the parties to that agreement, specifically Harper Woods and some others, have been sued for.
Makes sense.
Well, they haven't been sued under the agreement, but they've been sued for overriding it for violation of the Headley Amendment by using stormwater discharge rate increases in their water rate as opposed to putting them into a millage. The law firm Royal Oak that has made this living.
Oh, I saw that, yeah.
Okay, well, we have a separated system, so we're not using stormwater, but those communities to which we have now entered into a contract do not have separated systems. And I know Harper Woods has been party to litigation under that, it costs a couple $1 million. The question would be, under this contract, are we protected, or we're gonna ask for indemnification in the event litigation ensued because of some failure on their part to adequately have a Headley or a separate millage. The communities have done is taken the storage cost to put a new storage basin in, and they baked it into their water and sewer rates, as opposed to putting it out as a separate item. As for the Bolt decision, Mark, isn't that the one?
Both decisions, Lansing and Bolt case, yes.
That's the landmark decision that enabled these guys to do this. And this firm has really been very successful. And I just want to make sure from our community's perspective that we didn't enter into a new contract with parties that potentially could be liable, because this Milk River thing which we're now involved with, is a combined sewage system. It's not a separated system like ours. So I just want to make sure that we're covered in terms of, if they got sued, for example, or if the district got sued, we would be indemnified because we're not parties to stormwater retention and stormwater flow.
It was on the front page, Brian, of the Free Press, I think, last
Sounds
Thursday.
like Brett Kavanaugh question.
Excuse me?
Long, I'll have to get back to you on it because I understand, but yeah. I'll send him the case. I just saw the same article and
Yeah.
heard
It's
about
like
it.
going from one of those associates.
Lost a very small one.
But I mean, this
Very
guy's making a fortune.
Yeah, they have a,
Yeah, is Hadley a Royal Oak firm? What's the name of the firm, Hadley and?
Finley, or,
I have the article, I'll get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just wanted to bring it up.
I'll look into it and get back to you.
I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
I think we're covered, but I just want
that's a good point, Bruce, that's a good point. Okay, any other questions?
to, who's that attorney, Cipriano?
If not, Mark, your report?
One thing Brian didn't mention, he mentions the FOIAs, but this was an issue that came up at the Finance Committee. His FOIA research is included in his routine contacts with the city. So, and we speak on a regular basis, and I want to say, it's been a pleasure for most of the staff to work with him. We don't get charged extra for all the calls and things that he answers, and those were included. There was a question that was raised. The FOIAs are included in his monthly retainer. Put that one to bed. I don't want to steal everything Helen may say, or the mayor, about the Boo Fest, but remember, it's tomorrow night, so. Also tomorrow from 3 to 5 was special announcement at 3:30 is at Services for Older Citizens, of which all the Grosse Points and Harper Woods, they serve as our senior center. A special announcement, so anybody that's available, please come. You'll be impressed with the services provided and the information. We just completed our strategic plan. There will be copies. If not, I'll get everyone copies available. Bruce mentioned the meeting with Grosse Pointe Yacht Club. We're both concerned the mayor couldn't come, so I was like, okay, what's this? Is this a new issue or something? And they had, they have 5 Commodores or past Commodores there.
There was a lot of brass.
Yeah,
A
we
lot
got
of
to sit
brass.
at the table with the flag and everything. And they just wanted to explain to us, which had happened a couple months before, their summer, they're hosting 450 families with kids who will race in the little bathtub boats. I forgot the name of
The Derby boats or something.
it. Yeah, Edsels or something. Optimums. Anyway, it's really neat. They're gonna borrow some space in our park, take down the fence temporarily, put it back up. We'll probably get a newer fence than we have there. And I think in some of that in the bushes, we actually have barbed wire, which is illegal in the city, so. But it's gonna be marked out. We're happy to cooperate with them. And I know they will be coming to talk further to council about this, but again, it was really helpful meeting, and they're interested. This is where the issue came up. Of any open wells, they're interested in helping us fill them. And again, the arrangements couldn't be better in terms of working with the yacht club
Mark,
and their staff.
in relationship to the house they bought next, across the street, what's their status with that?
They bought a house. They actually were interested in another house as well. They've had preliminary inquiries into changing the zoning status, which is not likely to occur and not likely to be recommended by staff for that, since it's entirely a residential community.
They have the renters in there now,
They
right?
have
They're
renters
renting
in
it out.
there. They've improved the house substantially, and, you know, when you buy a house, it becomes uncapped. So we'll be, and of course, it was inspected, it was a rental house previously too, but, had a new inspection, so we'll be gaining additional tax base, inspection, not just the inspection fee, but the taxes go up because of the uncapping there.
But I observed a bunch of tables and chairs being moved into the garages, so.
They haven't said anything to us about, I think they were thinking about at one point, we had very preliminary discussions about could they move some of their offices over there, and it depends on a lot of circumstances, assume if it would meet our requirements, but not aware of anything other than it's rented, it's been fixed up, and substantially improved from what was there before.
Mark, also talking about this weekend, or this summer's regatta that they're having, and I know that you, Brian said that you were doing some research on the rental. I know in previous years, they have asked if people in the area would rent their homes. This is before the popularity of Airbnbs and different things like that came about. I'm just wondering if during this period of time when we're having this influx of all of these people from out of state, do we have some type of rental language written as if people in this
It's gotta be
neighborhood
1
are
year or
gonna-
longer.
Yes.
It
Okay,
requires
so
1
these
year.
Airbnbs
That did
cannot
not at all
be-
come
okay.
up at our meeting with them. It's really more, very simple request of taking down the fence, you know, creating a storage area for the little boats themselves, and restoring it afterwards.
Okay.
But I want to say too, discussions continue on this, but they're very interested and will give me specific language which will include in our brochure that goes out in December, January. Local residents will be, local Grosse Pointe Shores kids will be allowed to participate in their junior sailing program.
Awesome.
It's really a nice thing that, I think it was mentioned when they came before, before, but they're willing to put that together, and we're looking for some information about that.
Good.
Plumbing mechanical, we have a new plumbing mechanical contract with McKenna and Associates, and Tom is satisfied, Gene is satisfied, which means I'm satisfied with the inspector that they've assigned to us, and it's working out fine. We received some disappointing news from the state historical people. I'm not sure when. This is actually almost worse than the gatehouse in terms of how long we're going to be waiting for our historical marker. Whether we get it for our November or December meeting is unclear based upon their schedule and staffing, the contracts. The checks have been issued months ago to have it, but as soon as we get it, we'll have an open house there. And I'm sure in the next couple of weeks, maybe on a Sunday afternoon, but we'll talk with council about time, we'll want to have some ribbon cutting both on the streets involved and certainly our new entranceway and stuff.
Be good for the December,
Yeah, maybe at lunch, you know,
Yeah.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
It was mentioned, the SEMSD issue was mentioned already. We've asked their attorney to send us notice of all their meetings so Brett can, you know how things roll downhill, because I don't want to go to those meetings. Brett is voluntarily willing to attend and stuff, right? That's the first he's heard of it, so he's now well.
Without duress.
I also want to thank, one of the examples here, and I brag about it to other cities when I talk to them, is the value of working together with the city council that we have. And, there's so many things, each of you have different responsibilities that have taken on boards or commissions, or, Bob checking all the lights that we had a few years ago. Councilman Seeley has been extremely helpful, and we expect a meeting very shortly with Wayne County to present them some more material for the repairs on this, on the seawall that are necessary. And, I can't brag enough about the quality of the people we have on city council. Each of you, finance committee or some of the other committees, have been great to work with. And that's why I think it works well for our residents here, because of the time and effort that you put in, and as well as working with the staff people that we have. So that's it for me.
Oh, good. Any questions for Mark?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up with that. For starters, thank you for the compliment, Mark. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure working with you too. And the update on the seawall project, now that the scope of work is 3 miles, I finally received price on the sheeting from the mill, which was what I've been waiting for. So I just have to compile all the information for you, but it should be a day or two. And the pricing actually improved because the quantity, in the steel industry, it's all about weight. The more weight you have, the better the price bracket becomes. So I think you'll be pleased.
Okay, any other questions? If not, at this point, no old business, no new business. Any public comment? We have public comment? Yes. Come on up to the podium, please. Thanks for waiting so patiently, standing there in a corner.
Thank you very much, Mayor, Council. My name's John Shook. My wife and I are currently residents of Grosse Pointe Farms, and I'm a candidate for Grosse Pointe School District School Board. And I'd like to address the board, the council tonight, if I may. My wife and I have 2 sons. We're 7-year residents of Grosse Pointe, and we moved here from California, Northern California, and we have had a great experience. One of our sons, our oldest, is now serving in the United States Naval Academy and is a 2018 graduate of Grosse Pointe South. Our younger son is also engaged in baseball, and he will also go on to college. The Grosse Pointes are blessed with a great community of great parents, great citizens, great infrastructure, and great location. It's what drew us here, and we call it our home. I'm running for school board because of this bond issue. It's not $111 million, it's $183 million, when you include $73 million of interest. Over 20 years, this will cost the community $9 million a year in loss of residents' disposable income to pay back the interest and principal. It's a serious, very serious issue that poses the issue of weakening our communities, not strengthening it. We all know what debt, personal, corporate, or otherwise, or community-wise, means to our balance sheets, our personal balance sheets, our family balance sheets, and our community balance sheets. This bond is not the correct way to fix our schools and provide the correct learning environment for our students and our children of our current generation and future generations. The best way to approach this issue is to use existing sinking fund millages, properly allocated, properly budgeted, with proper scopes of work, not $111 million of estimates that do not have scopes of work, have not been reviewed by design professionals. It becomes one big slush fund. And as a professional engineer, a a project manager, and currently serving as a vice president of operations, I find this approach wasteful and reckless with taxpayer money. So it is why I am running for school board to propose a different and better way that is more sustainable for our communities, for this generation and generations to come. Thank you very much for your time.
No, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Sure. Please come forward.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and council members. I also am running for the school board. I'm Wendy Sy. I have lived in Grosse Pointe Woods for over 20 years, and I'm married to a lifelong resident of Grosse Pointe Woods as well. I have 3 kids in the district. One graduated from North 2 years ago. I have a senior at North, and then I have a 7th grader at Parcells. I've been very involved with all of the schools that my kids have attended in terms of volunteering, and volunteering with the Wood Shores Little League in the concession stands and whatever else they might need. So I've always been very, very involved in the community. I'm an attorney. I work for the Army. I've worked at TACOM as the deputy chief counsel there over 20 years now. I've got a lot of experience with government contracting and business law, and I think that my experience in that context is a good springboard for me to serve as a trustee on the school board. I have a lot of experience working with a variety of different functional areas with engineers, accountants, finance folks, attorneys, defense industry members, and so I'm used to working with a variety of different people, building a consensus, working as a team to reach a common goal. And so I think that would be another good attribute for me to be serving as a trustee on the board. I ran 2 years ago, and since that time I've continued to be active with paying attention to what the school board's doing, and I worked on the Blue Ribbon Committee this last year where we assessed the report that the Plant Moran provided a report on the facilities, the buildings that were in the district, and the state of repair of those buildings, and the capacity at which those buildings are currently operating. And that was a good start, but they didn't do their homework. There wasn't enough work done. They stopped abruptly, and then there was a decision made to present this bond to the voters. And so that is another reason why I'm running, because I don't think that bond is the right bond for our citizens. It's just not. It's ill-informed. It doesn't have the analysis that's required. We need to do our homework. We need to go back to the drawing board and figure out what we're going to do about declining enrollment. Our enrollment, we're losing about 100 students a year. That's $1 million a year that we're losing, and that's in large part due to just a decrease in live birth rate, and that's across the country. It's not just a Grosse Pointe thing. So we need to address declining enrollment. We can't keep operating the way we're operating, kicking the can down the road. It's not going to be easy by any stretch. It's a huge challenge, and it's going to be difficult to figure out what the best way is to get there, but we have to do the work. Utilizing, as Mr. Shook said, there's a lot of other, there's the sinking fund, there's the Wayne County Enhancement Millage. That's funding that we can use pay as you go. We're not going to incur any more debt. Utilize those resources, do the planning that's necessary, then figure out if then we need to go to the voters and ask for additional funds. That would be the time. It's just this is not the right bond at this time. So pending any further questions, I just want to take an opportunity to introduce myself. So thank you.
Thank you for coming to our meeting. Thank you. Any other public comment? Oh.
Council members and Mayor. My name is Margaret Wirtz, and I'm on the school board currently. I'm the vice president of the school board. I've been on for 4 years. I am also the policy chair, and I helped recently pass a policy that saves us $400,000 to $500,000 a year. Since my time on the board, we've raised the fund balance from 5 to 10%. I wasn't on the Blue Ribbon Committee, but I honor that committee because this is 15 months in the making. They met last fall. It was 50 members, community-wide members. Everything was done in open. They met over several months, and they came to conclusions that our buildings are in real need of repairs. We have $111 million of critical needs within the buildings. I support the bond 100%, and although I may differ in some things, I honor the work of the entire committee and the dozen town hall meetings that we had where we opened all the buildings up to the community. You could come in and see the state of our buildings. Our buildings are between 75 and 100 years old, and this is the time that we need to repair them. So I'd urge you first to vote for me again for the school board and also for the bond. Thank you.
But thank you for coming.
Hello, Council and Mayor. Thank you for allowing these comments. My name is Lisa Pappas, and I am the Republican candidate for the State Senate in District 2 here in the Point, which is representing all of the Points, Harper Woods, Hamtramck, Highland Park, big part of the east side of Detroit. When I entered this race, I was told that a Republican could not win District 2 as a Republican, and I'm here to tell you that I have made some very serious momentum in my campaign. Many of you may be aware that this Senate seat was vacated by a certain senator that had to resign over some corruption issues. My opponent worked for him, and he has been running the campaign of my opponent. And I don't want to start with a negative reason, but that was one of the reasons I joined the race to begin with. And but mostly I joined the race because I have children and I am concerned about their future in Michigan, and I thought it was time that the Points and our area had real representation in Lansing. I have been a lifelong Michigan resident. I was born and raised in Wayne County. My parents were teachers, and I have been a resident. My husband and I have been married 28 years, and we've resided the last 17 in the city of Grosse Pointe, still there on Washington, and have raised our 6 children in this community. Our oldest 4 graduated from Grosse Pointe South. The oldest 3 have graduated from Grand Valley now, State University, and our oldest daughter's getting married next summer. We're very excited about that. And our youngest 2 are currently sophomore at South and an 8th grader at Brownell. So I took on this race because I wanted my children to have a better future here in Michigan. We're a small business family. My husband has spent the last 30 years running a business owned by his brother, who resides here in Grosse Pointe Shores, and which is Pegasus Restaurant down in Greektown and in St. Clair Shores. And I was actually, when we opened the St. Clair Shores location, I was the one who was called in 2 days before they opened and said, could you please help us get this started? And so for the first 3 months, I ran that for the family. I'm also a teacher, and that is the biggest reason, along with my own children, that I entered this race, was to go to Lansing and do something about our education system, which, of course, relates to our Grosse Pointe Public Schools, our declining enrollment, and the increasing challenges we are seeing in the classroom and the lack of classroom dollars. One of my issues in going to Lansing is to do something to get rid of the Common Core state standards, which are not state standards at all. They're federal standards that were handed down to the states, and they are tied to the high-stakes testing, constantly changing textbooks, and there are a lot of people in between those textbooks and our children. We have gotten far away from reading, writing, and math. And I can tell you, as a teacher who for the last decade has spent my life teaching mostly high school, I've taught middle school, and I'm currently teaching K-8. And I have watched this in progress, graduating students that couldn't write a coherent paragraph, couldn't do math, couldn't write, and couldn't read well. And there's something wrong with 7 hours a day of students being in school and coming out, graduating with a high school diploma and not being able to do those things. Now, we see a difference in Grosse Pointe schools. That's why we moved here, for the schools, for our children. And our children are doing really well, and we're very lucky to have the schools we have. However, if we do not change the model in Lansing for our educational system, everything that has happened to neighboring suburbs will come here and is coming here to Grosse Pointe. I taught in a schools of choice district, and I watched what it did to the district and watched the declining enrollment and watched as students came from far away. with a lot of issues and not a lot of parenting. And there's no right or wrong way. There's a lot of things wrong with our system, but a lot of things we can fix. It is not the only issue that I'm going to go to Lansing for. I'm also looking to fix our roads, our infrastructure, keep our Great Lakes clean for drinking water, for recreation, and also hoping in my district to get our city airport refurbished and revitalize part of our downtown, because we right now have an airport sitting there broken down and empty with an entire area that's really just in horrible shape, and there's really no good alternative to changing it to something else because it will take years and years. So there's lots of grant money available through the FAA and the state, and I'd like to do that to make that airport viable again, so we could at least have small planes coming in and out. And those are among some of the issues I'm working on. DTE, getting our infrastructure fixed too, because on the block of Washington, I can tell you, we have had horrible power problems for the last 5 years. Our entire block has suffered with brownouts, power surges. We filed complaints with the Public Service Commission. Nothing's been done. And so we've all endured a lot of thrown out food, burned up appliances, and we've been told over and over again the voltage coming into our homes is inadequate, and DTE has continually refused to do anything about it. So those are just a bucket full of the things that I'm looking to go to Lansing to represent. I appreciate you getting the word out and giving me some time here to speak. And I am intent upon going to Lansing and the November 6th vote. I have my cards if anyone's interested. And the comparison, I think, between me and my opponent it's a pretty clear line. We have two choices in District 2, and I think I will be a good voice for the Points and for our entire community. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Any more public comment? Yes, John?
Hello again, John Seago, 86 Lockmore. Lakeshore Road, I take that to work every day, Monday through Friday, about 8 a.m., and which is the legal time, I believe, for contractors to be able to bring their big work trucks and lawnmowers or whatever it is, and they park along the right lane in front of many houses. What do you see? Well, besides that, there's heavy traffic volume, there's city sanitation trucks, and in addition, there's the landscapers, the grass cutters, tree trimmers occupying the entire right lane. And especially at the curve in the 1030 to 1040 area of Lakeshore, which, let me get, what we do not see, though, is a sufficient warning of these contractors potentially causing accidents. We do not see the contractors parking in the spacious driveways, so they're in the roadway. I don't know what the ordinance is or the regulation or the law that they can't pull into these big driveways, but they're occupying the road, potentially causing an accident. And there will be an accident, and there will be a fatality. And then now and then I do see an orange cone. It's willy-nilly, might be 2 orange cones like stuck right behind the truck. I'm not blaming the workers. I'm blaming there's got to be a system to make this a better situation to prevent an accident from happening. According to MDOT, a work zone traffic control regulations in a 35-mile-per-hour zone blocking an entire lane of traffic, the following needs to be incorporated for safe passage of said vehicles. You need to have warning signs, explicit spacing of these signs, tapering of the roadway to the contractor's vans, etc., specific tapering lengths of the speed of the road, and buffer zones behind the work vehicles. MDOT has an explicit set of configurations for these situations. I made a few copies. I can even give them to you when I'm done about distances, speeds, type of signs that need to be placed out there. There's 2 basic areas of work times. One's called the short-term stationary work time. That's greater than 1 hour. There's a short duration work time, which is less than 1 hour. The short duration work time, they kind of put the criteria down. Instead of having 5 paragraphs, they say, considering these factors, simplified control procedures may be warranted for short duration work, period. A reduction in the number of devices may be offset by the use of other more dominant devices such as high intensity rotating, flashing, oscillating, or strobe lights on work vehicles. I can't tell you how many times I've gone down there, going to work, and there's this big truck with all these guys hanging out, and then there'll be a big vehicle in the left lane. You get behind that, and somebody wants to pull out, and all of a sudden, somebody's gonna get decapitated out there. My next note is, let's turn the page. Okay. I sincerely believe that our public safety department needs to enforce or regulate these work situations, or we will have a fatality. And MDOT is fairly specific on the distance of all their warnings and the regulations for that. I'm just trying to be proactive and.
Well, thank you, John. You make an excellent point. I know we've had complaints before. Somebody on my end was complaining about the landscape trucks, that sometimes they would leave for lunch and leave their trailer behind. I don't know, Chief, you've been addressing that, I think, recently. But we were told that the trailers and the trucks are so long, they can't go into those private driveways and turn around. But the system does seem to need some
They could
attention.
still park out there. They just have to go by the regulations that the state has for a 35 mile
Chief, can we
per hour
enforce that? Is that something we can enforce?
We do, when they apply for these permits, we ask them to come in, we ask them to use emergency lights. They disconnect the truck from the trailer, we write the trailer as an abandoned vehicle. Lake Shore is unique, there is no alternative to these, they cannot pull in the driveways. They can't pull their truck onto a side street the way they would on Hampton.
Right.
It's difficult, and
Mark, what would you like to add?
Yeah, I just want to add, we'll check with TIA. I do not believe even the MDOT short-term standards apply to to this particular road, but I'll be happy to check that.
Okay.
You want, leave a copy with the chief?
Sure.
I've seen them before, but I believe that they're only intended for actual construction projects on the road itself, but I'll be happy to check with, we use TIA, Traffic Improvement Association.
It's called a work area.
Well, Lake Shore is a county road, so we're under county jurisdiction.
South of Vernier is the county road, north is a local.
Oh, okay.
It's a major street, but it's under local jurisdiction.
Okay.
delivery vehicles create the same
Yep.
normal use forward flash.
FedEx or UPS.
But I
Yeah.
mean, this one orange cone stuck behind, a massive truck is not, that's
No,
not.
then,
gonna get it.
you bring a good point. Thank you, John. Thanks. Any other public comment? Helen, you want to talk about?
Oh, I thought I didn't want, I saved it.
Okay. Any other comments? If not, council comments. Bob?
I'm all set, thanks.
Matt?
Just see you at Boo Fest.
Okay. Tina?
Don't forget to vote next month. This is an important election, a lot of local, state, and national items, so please get out and vote.
Bruce?
Also,
Bob? Doug?
Like they said.
Okay. Well, just a few comments. Last month, of course, we had the car show. It was very successful. I wish Rhonda was here. On a miserable day, Sunday, cold and windy and rainy, we had over, 77 cars. So it was a great planning, a testament to Rhonda's good work and the popularity of the car show. I forgot to thank the judges, though, and our own city clerk, Bruce Nichols, who was seen with his clipboard, assessing the quality of the cars and giving the prizes. We had our own judge, Matt Remora, and we had visiting judge from Wayne County Circuit Court, the Honorable Jim Shalinsky. Those were our three judges. I forgot to thank them last time. The Boo Fest that we mentioned, and Helen helps organize. Brett will be there. The Improvement Foundations from 6 o'clock to 7:30. I don't know, how many pumpkins do we have? 500? 600?
It's about 4 or 5.
Are they? Wow. I mean, so we're talking 400, 500, 600 pumpkin. Everyone walks away with a pumpkin. It's nice to see the grandparents, the parents, and the children. It's a generational event, and it's just a good time. And even myself, when I go into the haunted house, I mean, it's still scary for me. You go in and people come at you, so I don't want to steal the show, but it's really nice to come see. Planning Commission meets next Tuesday. We mentioned the election day is Tuesday, November 6th. And people frequently talk about elections. Says, well, I'm only one vote. I don't know if I can get there. And you learn the importance of one vote or two votes or how narrow some of the margins are. So it really is important to vote. And the last thing I'd like to say is Veterans Day is Sunday, November 11th. And it's too late to do anything this year. But I would like to find out from our residents who did serve. And I would like to next year have an event at City Hall on Veterans Day so that we can honor all our veterans and have them come in because they're part of the community. And I'd like to read the list of all the veterans in our community, whether they're here or not next year. So I'd like to plan an event for them next year. I see John Seago. John was in the Air Force. I mean, a proud member of the Air Force. I would like people like that to come and be recognized. So that's a new event I'd like to have next year. Our next council meeting is November 20th. We'll have our auditor here, so it's always a very fun and interesting time. Learn about our finances, and I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye.